Hi, this is Gio, co-host of the Away From The Rink podcast. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not reflect those of the hosts or producers. This podcast contains discussions of drugs, alcohol, trauma, and other sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised. The content provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical, legal, or professional advice. If you need help, please contact a number in our description or simply send us an email at afterpodcastofficial@gmail.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to After Away From The Rink podcast. We are on episode 5. Myself, DJ McGrath, got my co-host, my good buddy, Giovanni Flaminio. G-Bones, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey, DJ, doing well. Great to be back on with you. Yeah, we're just rolling along, right? Growing this thing, having great conversations, needed conversations, right? Yeah, man, just a pleasure to hold the space with you, man.
Yeah, no, that's so very true. You know what? The weather's been turning around in good old Saskatchewan. You know, I have been sober for almost 4 years now. And when I started trying to find my routine, when I started to try to stay sober in this crazy world we live in, I started walking. A big thing in my recovery was walking. And I haven't missed a day in probably almost 4 years of walking. And now yesterday I went down by the river for the first time with my dog Duke, and man, it was great. It's great to finally get back some weather. Spring is coming and being outside. Hey, do you kind of relate with that, G?
Yeah, for sure. Even just this morning, I was up early and, it's kind of an interesting day. Plus temperatures, but still a little gloomy, a little rainy.
Yeah.
And it was just walked around the neighborhood and just kind of tapped into nature a bit. And for sure, man, it's a big tool for just that serenity and clear-headedness, right? So
it's super important. And if any of you guys out there, that's a good tip from me, myself, and G-Bones. If you guys are trying to change something, trying to get sober, I think a big thing is going outside and hanging out with the nature, the vitamin D. I think it's super important. But before we bring on our special guest, G, I kind of want to ask you a question because I know there's a lot of people that could relate with you. I think this is an important topic, especially a mental health podcast. I wanted to ask you about your relationships now that you're sober. You yourself, you reconciled with a lady that has your kid, that you guys had a kid together, and you guys kind of went on your separate ways. Now that you're sober, now that you're back with her, and now you're a good presence of your daughter's life, I want to ask, how is that going for you? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that may be in the same shoes as you, maybe lost a relationship, trying to get back into one. It's hard. Do you have any insights in how personally, because you've been through it, man, you're continually walking through it. How is it going for you, and any advice you could give for anybody that's listening?
Yeah, wow. I mean, deeper question for sure, man, but happy to answer it. I think it's you do this self-work, and I know you can attest to that. We work on ourselves, right? And things get placed in our lives, people get placed in our lives, and that was kind of the reconcile you touched on. That's what happened last year with my youngest daughter's mother. And initially it was, super smooth, right? This is awesome. It's meant to be type stuff. But then life happens, right? You get back into the demands of life, and yeah, there's struggle. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's, flawless every day, but I think it's how you work through it, right? And that honesty, that transparency, good communication, that's something I'm constantly trying to work on, is how can I be a good communicator? Because otherwise I'm just making assumptions or letting my thoughts control me, and that's no good, right? That's what I did in addiction, So yeah, I think communication, big piece, man. And then a lot of the same tools we use in recovery with, reaching out to people, right? I do therapy. I have tools that help me navigate those relationships, not just with my partner, but my kids, my close friends, parents. And yeah, just that recognition, I can't do this on my own, man.
Yeah.
And I used to think I could, and track record's not great, so I lean on others big time.
Yeah.
But yeah, great question, man.
Yeah, and when you said about vulnerability and communication, I think obviously both in our addiction days, the vulnerability and being honest with people obviously wasn't in the picture back when we were both doing our addictions. And when anything, especially in my addiction time, when situations, problems, something bad has happened to me or my family, I can't handle it. So the easiest thing to do was to freeze our feelings with drugs and alcohol, right? Now, on the other side of things, we don't have those easy substances to freeze our feelings. Now we got to deal with them sober. And sometimes it's hard. And us being especially a man, we're supposed to handle everything. That's kind of how we were growing up. That's how we were taught, is show no weakness and everything. Well, I'm the first guy to admit I couldn't handle that. So I initially went to drugs and alcohol, but now I'm working on that too every day. I'm working on being vulnerable, but I know that's what is saving my life. That is what's keeping me sober, is having these real conversations. Fuck, this is why we started this Away From The Rink podcast, to have real conversations, because this is something that we didn't have, we had no knowledge of. But gee, thanks for sharing that, because I think there's a lot of people out there that it's tough. You know, you're trying to get back into it, but it's hard because you're so used to freezing your feelings with drugs and alcohol, right?
100%, man. And I think, not to knock on people who to express wins in their life, but I think the social media element, you can paint a certain picture of relationships, right? But what's going on behind closed doors? And I think not that you need to always announce that there's private matters, but for me, I can openly talk about some of the struggles, that it's not always the sunshine and rainbows, so to speak. But those trials, for me anyways, have allowed that relationship, I think, to get stronger.
Yeah.
Right. You can overcome stuff, and the vulnerabilities you touched on, that's a big piece. Because yes, I was the same way. Didn't to disclose stuff, came across as weakness, but now it's arguably my biggest tool.
Yeah.
So
well, exactly. In what you said, a lot of people, social media nowadays, everyone likes posting the good, but what's really going on behind closed doors? You said, gee. So no, I really wanted to ask you that question. I think it's going to help. I know it's going to help out someone that's listening. Super excited. Joining us today is Robin Ulrich, assistant coach of the Saskatchewan Huskies women's hockey at the University of Saskatchewan. A former Huskies standout from Lantman, Saskatchewan, Robin built an incredible playing career in Saskatoon, earning Canada West All-Star honors on defense, major student athlete awards, and even going 5 full seasons without missing a single game. After graduating, she made the quick transition from the locker room to the bench, where she's now helping guide the next generation of Huskies while bringing a strong voice to conversations around culture, leadership, and mental health in sport. Coach Ulrich, how are you to start this after Away From The Rink podcast? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
No, I love hearing that.
Yeah, good. Like you said, sun's shining. It's a beautiful day. The weather's turning. I'm always somebody who deals well with the sun, so that's good in my world. And Husky men won Can West last night, so that's exciting. Women's basketball is headed for the national finals today, so everything's good in Husky land too, so that's always fun.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I know G-Bones and myself are super excited to bring you on, because we want to know more about female hockey, and because it's blowing up. You know, this PWHL to the Olympics, that was phenomenal to watch, and it's good to get some insight. And you were a former hockey player, quick transition from playing 5 years of Huskies, and now you're behind the bench. So that's super cool. I'm going to quickly ask you, how is that transition for you? Because you mentioned to me that you were coaching girls that you played with previous.
Yeah.
So how was that for you in that transition?
It was interesting. I knew I always wanted to coach. Obviously grew up, my dad coached me growing up. My uncle, who Gio knows, Uncle Buzz coached me growing up, and that was always going to be the transition, was to coach once my playing was done. I didn't really know what that was going to look like, and then to have it transition straight and to be able to coach at university hockey right off the hop was, obviously an exceptional opportunity. But it did bring its own set of challenges, because I went from being the captain of the team to now being a coach and being on the bench. And so now I am a coach who's deciding on ice time for not just teammates, but my friends.
Yeah.
And so that was interesting to try and navigate that through the space, and how, it used to be, hey, Saturday, game's over, are we going out? And it's, I can't now. So it was always, it's kind of trying to walk that line of still obviously maintaining your friendships, but then also having that line of, no, I'm also your coach now too. So it got easier obviously as the years went on, and after probably 2 years, when the big group of my friends graduated, got a little bit easier. But yeah, for sure. It's tough when you're late in a season or you're in playoffs and you're shortening the bench and you're telling your friend, hey, sorry, we're going down to 4, and you're not one of the 4. That's a tough thing to navigate.
For sure.
But
yeah, well, thanks for coming on, Robin. Great to see you again. It's been quite some time. And I remember I was kind of reflecting on some, working hockey schools with you back in the day, and just, I remember you were a tremendous player. And so, congrats on the transition. I know that role with the Huskies is important to you. I wanted to ask you off the hop, what do you see as the biggest change from coming up through the ranks as a female player, what that was to what it's now, just from an opportunity standpoint, or even just, the culture shift? What would you say some of the biggest differences are?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to just say everything, but it is kind of all of the things. Hockey Canada, we had our highest number of female registrants last year. USA Hockey just announced they have over 100,000 females registered last year. So just the number of people that are playing, what it looks, growing up having to play small town boys hockey to start with, and there was a girls team that maybe drew from a whole bunch of different places to create one team. Now, I was talking with my cousin yesterday. Now Estevan has 2 U15 A teams, plus there's a double A team that they combine with in Weyburn. And they're both really good. So, I mean, just the numbers, even in back home and across the board, are bigger. Attitude towards females playing hockey has changed. I was chatting with a few former teammates when, kind of the stuff with the U.S. men's hockey team and that came up. And, there was a point in time I was playing U13 hockey, and I actually asked my dad this question because I knew that something had gone down about having, because we had 5 girls on the team. And there was something that went down around that time about having the girls in the dressing room. And so I said to him, was it really just the girls in the dressing room? And he's like, no, they didn't. Those parents didn't even want you on the team. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what'd you say? I turned around and said to him, we don't have a team if the 5 of them don't play. There's not enough to have a team, right? But I mean, not that maybe that still doesn't happen, but I mean, that was the mentality at the time, is people didn't even want you on the ice. Or why are you on the ice with these kids? You should be over here in this space. So I think there's a little bit of a change in the attitude and the acceptance of females in the game. And then the opportunities are far flung, which is awesome too, right? I mean, we have AAA leagues, we have AA leagues. We basically have the same thing on the female side in terms of structure that the boys have now, and all the way up to even a professional league. So obviously the opportunities and everything there are huge as well. So I just think there's been an immense change in the game in 20 years or so.
Yeah, and obviously you grew up in Lantman, playing hockey when you were young, and now back in the day you had to play in the boys league. And I know I was having a good conversation with you before the podcast. Now looking back, Robin, was that kind of a good thing? Did it kind of make you a better hockey player / person, you playing with boys? Do you kind of want to give a little background on your experience of playing with boys?
For sure. I mean, I think so. At that time there was body checking in U13. So you're moving into playing contact hockey, being used to the physical side of it. And there's a way that you could find that you could use that on the female side. I think that teaches you a lot about awareness, having your head up, understanding body positioning, all of those pieces that you can use in the female game, even though there isn't contact. So I think on that side of it, obviously, and at the time the skill level there was a huge difference between being on the boys' side versus the girls. So, I mean, there was always that challenging piece as well. Yeah, and then I think, a little bit there was the dressing room side, which we talked about. That was always kind of, on the female side, I got the social aspect and a lot of that out of it, which was we had lots of fun. But on the guys' side, sometimes you missed out a little bit just because you weren't in the dressing room for those pieces. But I wouldn't change the way and the opportunities that I had growing up. I think all of those pieces led me to be the hockey player that I was. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So you're playing in Lantman. Do you want to tell us a little bit of how you got to the Huskies your first year? Where'd you play midget? AAA?
There was no AAA league
mid,
at the time.
There
was no AAA league at the time.
Yeah.
So like I said, I played boys and girls growing up. I just played locally in Estevan. We had it was a U15 / U18 team for 4 years. So we kind of had the same crew together, with the exception of a couple older players. So again, really good competitive teams. So we got to play a lot of really good hockey, participated in the SAS First program. When I was in grade 9, I think I got invited. The U of S used to run a prospects camp. The Huskies ran a prospects camp. So I got invited to that and kind of continued to attend that. And so that was kind of the route I was probably going to go. I did have some D1 interest in offers, but at the end of the day, going that far away from home wasn't going to be a reality for me. I was such a homebody and somebody that needed to be close to family. Me going to Detroit or even Minnesota or Ohio State, that was not going to be a place where I was going to succeed and do well. I probably would have been home within 2 weeks, just being that far away. So, attended those those camps kind of coming up. And then I think in April of my grade 12 year, I actually went to a prospect camp as well in Manitoba and was offered, had a conversation with the coach after. He said, hey, you're a type of player we can build a program around. If you want to come here, here's a scholarship you'd get. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to Manitoba. And then I never played spring hockey growing up. And for some reason, I got convinced to come up to play Saskatchewan. And I said, well, I'll come for a practice, but I don't know if I want to play because I was big into ball and all the school sports.
sure.
And I came up for a weekend, and the U of S coach came and said, hey, so we got a scholarship for you, and this is what it looks like. And I was, oh, now I have options. This is cool. And Saskatoon had always kind of been in the works. Just my mom is an alumni from here, and I have some family up here, and it's a touch closer than Winnipeg to home. And so when that opportunity came, I jumped on it and took it. And then, yeah, there's some good scholarships there. I had good marks in school, which obviously led to some extra academic scholarships, which would help my parents out with funding. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up here.
I keep hearing in this conversation, you moving away from home, and now you didn't really want to move too far away from home because you didn't want to be that far away from family. Now, Robin, Lampman's around Estevan, correct?
Yeah, so about 4 hours.
4 hours. How was your transition to Saskatoon? Was it a little bit of homesick off the start?
100%.
Yeah.
I called home crying my first day.
Eh? Yeah.
Absolutely. No. Was actually just having this joke with my dad and some other people from back home a little bit ago when I went and saw them. Probably the only reason I went to university was because of hockey. Right. I don't know if I would have left home with it. I loved hockey more than I hated being away from home. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was a hard transition. And I think it was a hard transition every year through university. And it was such a weird thing because I loved being in Saskatoon when I was here, but I hated being away from home too. So, I mean, I would cry every year when I left here to move home for the summer, and I'd probably cry every fall when I left to come back here because I had such a tie to both places.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do during that time then when you were obviously calling mom and dad all the time? Obviously there probably wasn't that much knowledge with mental health when you were playing as well. How did you deal with it?
Honestly, just tried to stay as busy as I could.
Yeah.
Which is
what about teammates?
Much,
were you talking to teammates and
Lean
stuff?
On teammates, talk to teammates, but I mean, and then once you get into it and you get into your routine, it's not so bad. You make your friends, and it's okay. But yeah, for sure. I mean, mental health was not something we discussed or even was words that were used, right? At the time, it was just figure out a way to get through it. And, find out a way to cope and deal with it. And, you lean on your friends. And I was lucky enough that obviously being close enough to home that my parents were going to be at games probably every few weekends. So you always kind of had that little bit to look forward to. And then eventually, you figure it out and you're going to survive being away from home and away from family. But for sure, yeah.
Quick question for you. I always ask my guests, especially former current athletes, rookie party. Do you remember your first rookie party? And is it as shitty and as hard it is as the male side of things back in the day?
I would say probably not as bad because I've heard some stories from the boys' side. So I would say probably not as bad, but I remember just being absolutely terrified going into it. And I mean, I was somebody that I drank a bit, but I was not a big drinker at all. And so I was absolutely terrified of what was going to happen there. And I just remember being...
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah. And you know what? I got super lucky that I got a vet that I just told her straight up because I felt she was somebody that I could trust and she never made me do anything.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was so thankful for that. And, and so that was kind of one thing that I always successfully or unsuccessfully tried to take forward through when I played. And then also once I became a coach was these things aren't going to go on because we are going to have people that are me that are terrified of what's happening, and we're never going to make somebody do something that is outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because
that's where that lived experience comes into
huge.
play, right? And it's incredible that you can pass that forward, because I think today I still believe in the concept of the rookie party, but just more of a healthy team bonding aspect, right? Yes. And can be beneficial in that regard. But yeah, DJ and I both experienced some rougher situations with that, a lot of years ago, right? Before the culture changed some. So I want to ask you about pressures. I know you had some coming through the ranks, but more importantly, like what are you seeing now with the girls? you know, even because I know you're in the community, so you see the youth hockey's big, as you mentioned, but you know, what are these girls struggling with coming through, not just university level, but you know, the build up to that, right? Like, what are some big struggles, and how are they maybe dealing with it?
Yeah, I think there's so much pressure from so many different places, externally and internally.
Yeah.
I think you brought up social media earlier when you were discussing even the relationship piece. Like, I think social media is such a, I can't imagine what it must be like to be a young person growing up with social media now. And I'm very thankful that that was not, you know, Facebook didn't come in until like my second year of university. And even then it was just like, you would just write hi on each other's pages. It wasn't anything like, you know, so I kind of got in before that. But I mean, it's just like there's this constant comparison all the time of everything. What I look like, what our team's doing, what individual players are doing. I think there's huge pressures if we look kind of in that performance, high performance elite level. You know, there's this person signing to go to this university and this person signing to go to this one, and I haven't signed yet. I haven't talked to anybody yet. I'm never gonna play hockey. There's so many pressures I think on that side to figure out where you're gonna go, what you're gonna do, and all of it. You get to see what everybody else is doing versus not really having an idea of what's happening elsewhere, and you just get it constantly blasted at you every time you open your phone. There's probably something going on. So I think that's a big pressure. I know from my time coaching AAA that those players perceive an exceptional amount of pressure from their parents.
Yeah.
And it's not that the parents actually actively put it on them. Obviously, there's going to be some that do, but they just perceive such a huge amount of pressure from their parents that they live with, that it's crazy. And there's times where you wish you could just be able to bridge that gap and, you know, say to them, your mom and dad just love you and they want you to be happy. It's you need to remove this pressure from yourself. And I know with some of our players through AAA saying, hey, you know what? I actually don't want to go on and play post-secondary. I just want to go to school and I'll still play hockey for fun, but I don't want to pursue the elite level. And their biggest fear of all of that was having the conversation with their parents to tell them, I don't want to do this at this level anymore. And it was such a fear that their parents would be so disappointed in them because they invested so much in them growing up.
Yeah.
And that was such a big piece that we had to try and help and support those players navigate that conversation with their parents, and that it was okay that that's the decision they made, and their parents were going to be okay with that being the decision they made. So I think there's a lot of pressure that way. There's just so much that they're under. Yeah, I sympathize with what a lot of them are going through. That, I mean, I count myself very lucky that I didn't have to.
Yeah, no, that is super important stuff that you just said, because obviously I work with athletes too, and that's a lot of these girls and males coming to me is I'm scared of what mom and dad are going to think of me.
Yeah.
And parents, yeah, you're right. Parents might not even think that they're doing something wrong, but it's the kids, they obviously know. Now, when that stuff happens, Robin, I know I had a good chat with you before. Athletes that are comfortable with going to you. Back in the day, I know for a fact when I was going through what I was going through, I was petrified of talking to my coach. Hell, I was petrified of telling my mom and dad about anything. So I'm scared of getting traded. I'm scared that I'm going to be, a cancer on the team. The coach doesn't think I can handle it. I'm going to go from a first liner to the fourth liner. My mind's creating me all these stories. Now, you mentioned that these girls have access to go to one of you guys. You said the staff, which is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
What you're doing. Do you address that before the season, or do these girls kind of know what's going on through vets previous years, or do you kind of go in there and make it clear, hey, girls, if there's absolutely anything going on away from the rink, at the rink, you guys can knock on my coach's door. Hell, my door's probably open. You could come in there whenever you want, because that is huge.
Yeah, and I think that is for sure something that we try and make known right away early on so everybody knows. And I mean, it's obviously different. There's going to be, the longer a player is with us, the easier it is for them to come in the door, right? Those first year players, as much as you can say it and try to show it, there's always a little bit of that hesitance. And usually they have to go to an older player on the team who has to then say, you're okay to go talk to Robin or Steve or whoever about this before they'll maybe come in. And I get it. That's just it's something that takes a little bit of time to build, but for sure it's something that we discuss early on, and we also have a number of supports outside of us that are available for them as well. that we make sure that they know are available to them too. So we have a mental performance coach. So that's maybe a little bit more on just the game performance side. And we have some support officers who his job is just, he works with athletes. He's not a counselor, but he just works with them on through different things. And he's amazing because he does a really good job of the balance between understanding, but also then redirecting some things into their own court of, okay, well, if this is what you're feeling, then you have to, these are your XYZ options. You have to act on that or whatever. He's awesome. And then obviously they have counseling as well. But again, it's something that when I was coming through, that was not even talked about, not even really, I don't even know if we did even mental performance at the time. That was your own learned thing to buy your Hockey Tough book by Saul Miller and try and figure out on your own.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. And you're exactly. And you were mentioning that now that you played the game, you played on the Huskies, and these girls are comfortable going to you. Now, I know you said you're assistant coach. Assistant coaches are kind of player coaches where girls are more comfortable going to the assistant coach. Now, do you think what you've been through, you've played that Huskies. Now, do you think that's why these girls would most likely go to you rather than the head coach?
Yeah, I think so. I would say in general, even if I hadn't played Huskies, I would say just on the female side of the game, they're probably always going to be more comfortable going to a female coach just because there's that extra connection. And that was even when I coached the Stars, I knew that athletes probably weren't going to come to me because I'm the head coach. So there's always that little bit of stigma, but I always wanted to make sure that I had a number of different females around in different roles that they would be comfortable with. So I had 1 to 2 of my assistants were females, female equipment manager, female trainers. Just there was different places that they would be able to go if there was things going on, that they could talk to somebody that was an adult that they could trust. And so I thought that was something that was really important to me.
Yeah, Robin, just, phenomenal insights. So I know for me, and this will lead into my question, but coaching U15, and DJ touched on earlier and asked you if these kids know, or do you address it at the start of the year? And I know for me, just naturally, first year back into coaching, I just felt compelled to tell the guys that at our opening team meeting. And I think it threw some of them off, right? Because it's still maybe not as common of a thing as we get to be. And you guys can call me or message me at any time about anything at the rink or away from it. And it took probably several weeks or even a couple months before several players did start reaching out. And now a lot more of them have. But I think that's so good that you do address it off the top. And then I guess just, kind of leads into my question with the identity of these players at the U of S, the student athlete, so to speak, motto, is that how are these girls handling it away from the rink? That's the name of the podcast, Away From The Rink. And then the parent element. I know this is kind of a loaded question, but when you coach the Stars, this is my main question. When you coach the Stars, was there parent involvement, and how did you deal with that as a coach? Because I know it goes on, at certain levels, or maybe up to a certain level, probably not as much at the university level, but when you were dealing with the, coaching the Stars, what did that look? How did you deal with that? And maybe what can you recommend to certain parents who want to speak out or get more involved and maybe shouldn't?
Yeah. Great question.
Yeah.
Yes. I would say with the Stars, that was probably one of my, I don't want to say biggest struggle because it wasn't the biggest struggle, but it was definitely something that was always kind of hanging. I count myself, I don't know, lucky, fortunate. I was able to surround myself with a couple people both on staff and just find a parent that I could talk to that could help me manage the rest. So I think my one assistant coach that I had for a few years, he was also a parent and a principal, and I think he probably ate a lot of stuff that would have come my way. So I think, I'm very lucky that I had him to help kind of filter some of that. And then I probably had another parent that was a pretty big fan proponent of mine in the stands that I think worked a lot of behind the scenes work to keep people, he knew what we were trying to do. He understood what I was trying to do, and he made sure to kind of keep the rest, at bay a bit. And so I think I was really lucky that I had those, because that helped keep maybe more of the pressure off of me than would normally be there. But for sure, I knew that there was a lot of stuff going on. And I think it's really tough, because you're trying, especially at the AAA level, you're trying to manage so many different pieces there. You have players who are just coming in, who you're trying to develop over their next 3 years. You're trying to help them to get to the point where they're going to, if they decide they want to go post-secondary, they need to be seen, and so you have to help get them to that level. Then you have, on the flip side, you have the players who have committed to play post-secondary. They're getting ready to go on to university, so you're trying to help develop them and develop that piece of their game so that they're ready to go and step in and play when they get wherever they're going to go. And then on top of all of that, there's an expectation to win. So how do you balance all of those things between the two? And I mean, you have parents whose their perspective changes. Year 1, everybody should be playing power play and penalty kill. Year 3, there should be units, because my kid should be, right? It's just such a, and I understand it, right? They're worried about their kid and what needs to be done for them. So I 100% understand that, but trying to balance all of those pieces is definitely a challenge. And yeah, it's the one thing I've really enjoyed about moving to the university side here for a bit, is getting a relief from the pressure of that, because that was a lot. And it was a lot knowing that no matter what you did, people weren't going to be happy.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because I learned something, because there's people don't realize all the aspects there is to do to be a coach, especially the stars. And I know you could probably agree with me. Parents need to realize that if you're being annoying and if you're always calling the coach, always complaining to the coach, that does not look good on your kid.
No.
You know, and I know scouts. I have a lot of buddies that are scouts, and I ask them, what do you look for in a player? And they know what they are on the ice. They will call the high school and principal and ask how their kid is. They will call other people that know this kid to ask how they is, and they'll ask how mom and dad are.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with the Huskies, that's probably the biggest area of research, background check you do into a player now is more into that side of it. It is talking to
home life, right?
It's talking to teachers, it's talking to their coaches, it's talking to other people who've coached them, it's talking to other people who have coached against them. It is all of those things, and it's, you know, more down to them as a person, because this is somebody that we're going to bring in for 5 years, and we want to make sure that they're an exceptional person that fits into the culture that we're trying to build, that has the tools that they're going to be able to be successful, because it's not easy to play university hockey. There's a lot of things. You said the student athlete piece. There is now not just 20 people on the team, there's maybe 28, and you're going to get scratched for the first time in your life. How are you going to deal with that? There's all of those pieces that you do a lot of looking into and figure out, is that the right person for here, or is this, they're going to get scratched and the first thing I'm going to have is a phone call from, which it shouldn't happen at this level, but maybe it does, right? Where it's going to be a problem with, you know, where mom and dad or whoever is in the ear all the time, and it's counter to what you're trying to do as a program and as a team. So it's definitely, you know, it's definitely a piece. Is that person or their parents going to be a problem?
And thank you so much for sharing that, because that is important stuff that people need to hear, especially coming from you, Robin, because you're an elite level coach, and people need to hear that. You could be the best player on that team, you could be the top scorer, but I know a lot of people that were top scorers but were just a cancer and just, you know, bad attitude, and people found out quick, and their career just went from here right down real quick just by that attitude. But before we continue on here, we're going to take a quick short break. This episode of After is proudly sponsored by the Mental Health Classic Hockey Tournament. This isn't just hockey. It's about bringing families, athletes, and communities together to start real conversations about mental health. It's about showing young athletes they're not alone, and that it's okay to talk about whatever they are going through. Sign up your son or daughter for Saskatoon August 8th and 9th, or Kindersley August 15th and 16th at mentalhealthclassic.ca. That's mentalhealthclassic.ca. Let's hit the ice, have fun, and make a real impact on and off the ice. Welcome back to episode 5 with Robin Ulrich. Before we bring her back on, I got a video I want to share. I think this is a pretty powerful video of Joel Walsh. He's the guitarist on the Eagles, and he talks about sobriety. And I think this is a very important piece here, and I'll get Gio to kind of share his thoughts and feelings on this video. So if you want to pull this video up for the crew here.
You stay sober.
Well, if you have problems in your life that are directly the result of alcohol or whatever substance you're doing,
Yeah, they're all drugs.
you have a problem. And at some point, you work for it, it doesn't work for you anymore. And very subtly, without you noticing, whatever you're on will convince you that you can't do anything without it. And then it's got you.
Well, how do you
Okay?
get rid of
And
it?
I chased it for 30 years. And it wasn't working for me. And I thought, oh, well, obviously I'm not drinking nearly enough. And that wasn't it.
No.
Right? I needed help. And the hardest thing to do, the phone can weigh 30 pounds, pick up the phone and ask for help. Because there's life after addiction, and it's good.
Well, I couldn't say it any better than that. But wow, Joe, that's beautiful. How do you stay sober?
So G, what do you
Well,
got out of that? I think So G, what do you think you got out of that? I think the biggest thing with my past and how it related with me is I couldn't do anything without cocaine. I couldn't do anything without drinking. I could remember owning a house in Kinnersley and even mowing my lawn to cleaning my house. I could obviously do it, but I'm like, this would be so much better with cocaine. So that's what I would do. Then it just became an everyday thing. Can you relate with anything about this, what Big Joe said?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it. He
Yeah.
touched on some really good stuff there. And yeah, you brought it up too, man. For me, that's how it was. And then even when I recognized I had a problem and was trying to get sober, I could do it on my own for, 3, 4, 5 days, maybe just lock myself in my place type deal. But then as soon as it came to go start living life or do something, productive in life, I recognized pretty quick I couldn't do it clean and sober. And then you'd go back to picking up, right? And that was a cycle I dealt with for many months prior to really asking for help, right? But yeah, I love how he touched on the chase, right? And it's almost, I think of slavery, right? I was ball and chain to that shit, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not only to the substance, but to the lifestyle. And it was my solution. That shit was my solution. Today, it's about connection, right? Spiritual connection. That's the solution, not the substances. And then I love what he said towards the end about life beyond addiction, man. Because I think when you're in it deep, and people reach out to me who are struggling, right? There's not that belief that there is a life beyond it. And it's scary because, you can get into the suicidal element or the just, I don't have hope to get beyond this. Right. And I think that's why it's important that, again, we have these conversations and tell people, share our story of how we have come out the other side. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great clip, man. I'm happy you pulled it up.
Yeah, it was good. And especially the phone can weigh 30 pounds, but pick up that phone and fucking ask for help. Because there is light at the end of the tunnel, and addiction, life after addiction is a beautiful thing. So I wanted to share that with you guys. We're back with Robin here. Robin, this has been absolutely incredible. We talked about your childhood right up to the rankings of being the U of S Husky, and we haven't really touched on it, but 5 years without missing a game, not an injury or not a healthy scratch. Hats off to you, because that is incredible stuff.
Iron Man.
Yeah, that is
Iron
incredible.
Woman.
Iron Woman. And then now you are a coach, assistant coach for the U of S Huskies, and that's incredible stuff. A lot of athletes, you're big in the hockey world. Now I wanted to ask you, now you're a coach, now you're away from playing, now you're in the coach aspect of things. You coach some girls that you once played with, and it could be tough, especially on the mind. Now you going home, Robin, when you're away from the rink, maybe some stuff is going bad in the dressing room, maybe you guys are on a losing streak, whatever it may be, or maybe an individual, a girl on your team struggling, and you don't know how to deal with it. Maybe she's still struggling. How do you take that home? Is there any routines that you do, or how do you take care of your mental health? Because you're filling up everybody's cup. Who's filling up Robin's cup?
Yeah, I think it's something that I still find challenging. is putting those boundaries in place of I have to be able to leave the rink at the rink. I have to be able to stop. You know, if I have an hour free at night, don't flip the computer open and try and watch video or do something else, right? I think trying to create those really defined boundaries for myself has probably been one of my biggest challenges, and something that I still think I struggle with, because, I mean, like you said, last year we didn't have a great year. It's for the first time in a long, actually since I played. So for the first time in a long time, we had 5 wins and we weren't even sniffing playoffs for most, like, realistically the entire year. And that was something that, you know, was just like, sometimes you think you can work harder and do different things to try and change it. Like, what are all the things that I can do to make this better for our players so we can find a solution so we can get away from this? And so, I think, like, trying to create that defined boundary of when does Coach Robin, like, shut that down a little bit and that has to be left, and when can I just be Robin the person? And I think it's something that I still struggle a little bit with, to be honest, but I try and find other things that I can do, hobbies and those different types of things that are ways that I can kind of disconnect and just, you know, have some time for me and what I have to do. And I love to travel, so that's not always, you know, realistic within hockey season, but those are things where I have to get away and just have some downtime away from all of the pressures, reading old grandma stuff, reading, puzzling, diamond puzzles, just things where I can focus in on something else that helps my brain just shut off and I can't focus and think about all those things while I'm doing that. But yeah.
Yeah, this is for the coaches out there, because, you know, you and I are both coaches, and I know even in DJ's case, just mentoring athletes. But I think from what I've noticed back in the mix, so to speak, I get so invested emotionally sometimes in the, not just the games, but the players, and I found myself, you know, bringing it home, or even the next day. You know, me and the guy I coach with, we talked about having an emotional hangover from a big provincial game loss or whatever the case may be. How do you deal with that? And, you know, maybe some advice for coaches of all levels out there who get really invested and are maybe former competitive athletes ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Where this is kind of this helps fill that void of the competition we used to get from playing.
100%. I mean, that's always the joke, is when you played, your identity was being a hockey player. Well, then what did it be? Well, we all just went into coaching, so we still got that to be our identity, right? Yeah, I think it's something that one thing that's always helped me is always having somebody in my staff or in my life that's able to check that a little bit, you know, where you are in those things where you're feeling the stress and you are for sure bringing it to the rink and you're a different person almost there because you're bringing all of this with you. That's just, hey, are you okay? We need to just, you know, and just sometimes those reminders of, as much as you feel this is your whole life, this is also just a game, right? And you need to remember what's your why do you do it? It still has to be fun. At the end of the day, it is a game, and you're supposed to enjoy what you're doing. Doesn't mean it can't be hard and you can't be competitive, but you still have to find fun in it. Otherwise, why are we here? Why are you doing this? And I think for me, a lot of times it's a reminder of there's a lot of other things I could be doing in life that would be earning me a lot more money and whatever, but I get to go to the rink every day, and that's my happy place. I get to be at the rink every day. That is an unbelievable privilege to have, to get to do that. I get to work with young people every day. So I think sometimes some of that is just remembering your why and getting yourself out of that in the now mindset and being able to just pull back and look big picture at the things that you do have. And a lot of it is mindset and that frame of mind of, it can be negative, it can be positive. I think I've always been a person that's been pretty good at keeping things on the positive and looking at that glass half full side, if you want to use the cliche. But I think, a lot of those strategies, and then just breathing and all of those things, just that ability to just kind of pull yourself out of it.
What I liked about this, what you're saying right now, is what I'm catching out of this is you have a lot of people that are on your side. Because when you go back to even being the Stars coach, you had a couple female coaches, you had someone in the stands and all that. I think that is very important. And especially it's a good message for coaches, especially male coaches who think they could have everything under control. But having people who are not necessarily on the coaching staff, but someone who has that extra eye for you to help you out. I think that is super important to ask for help, especially as a coach. You know what I mean? Because that's not...
Yeah, and I think it's funny, probably one of the most eye-opening conversations, or one that I checked myself the most with. And I guess all of it ties together of creating an environment where players feel safe. But I actually had a player come in one time and say, "How are you doing?" And
Wow.
Yeah.
I can tell you're really stressed lately. Just I want you to know that we're, you know, kind of came with that message from the team and checked in on me. And I was,
That's
holy
powerful.
cow, you're a 17.
Yeah, how did that make you feel?
It was unreal. And you're a 17-year-old kid, and she was someone who was extremely mature in the first place. But I mean,
Right.
the amount of respect that I had for that player coming in and having the ability to read that situation and understand, hey, I can tell Robin's super stressed and I'm just going to go give her a little. That's huge.
Wow.
And to me, that was one of those things where it's, okay, maybe, you know, all of these things that I'm doing that I'm hoping I'm creating this environment have, at least for one person. But
yeah, wow.
I mean, that's something, maybe you wouldn't see that on the guy's side, but for sure on the girl's side. And I know it's something that even, you know, moving into the Huskies last year, I had a player come in and say, "Hey, should I just go check on Steve? I can tell he's super stressed." And I think he'd super value that conversation of you walking in there and saying, "How are you doing?" Because it is
It's wild. You
know?
never hear that.
No, it's
Hey,
incredible.
you know, so I think how far also we've come in building those, the way that, you know, the player coach relationship has changed. I think over time that they have the ability to walk in and recognize that in a leader.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about the culture that you're able to build.
And there's always a fine line, right? Because coaches still need to coach, and you don't want to get not necessarily walked all over on.
100%.
But man, that's so fucking powerful, dude.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, players going to coaches, and yeah, there could be one of two things. That's why I asked you, because why is my player coming and asking me if I'm okay? That's just a defensive mechanism. But the other side of feeling, wow, these you must be making a positive effect on the players if they're coming up to you and asking if you're okay.
Yeah. And then also get your stuff in gear.
yeah.
Right?
No kidding.
But I mean, it's a super powerful conversation, and something that continues to stick with me and continues to be, when I do know that I'm getting into stressful situations, it's something that I just kind of harken back to of, you know, am I bringing this and putting this into the players and into the environment and into the kind of aura of the room, or am I, you know, managing that stress level as well? So
wow.
Yeah.
So obviously there's going to be some athletes listening to this, and you're an elite level coach. What's something that you could message to these athletes maybe that are struggling? Maybe you said they're in AAA midget right now and haven't got a scholarship, haven't got an offer, and it's obviously in their head. What's something you could tell an athlete to keep going, or to reach out to and keep talking, or what's something you could say to an athlete that's struggling younger?
Yeah, I think one, you're always I'm a believer in, you're always going to end up where you were meant to be.
Yeah.
Love that.
You know, I think there's going to be things that will happen and places you go and journeys you take, and I feel you're always going to end up where you were meant to be. And so your path is always your own. Your path in hockey is not going to be the same as everybody else. So there are going to be times where maybe there are some other people that are committed and you're not, but your time is coming, and there is a place and a fit for everybody. And so I think just to continue with the process, reach out, ask questions. I am always available I always freely make myself available to anybody for answering questions, even if it's, you know, something that's not going to be with our program. I'm happy to just help with the process, because that's always, I know it can be stressful and hard to navigate lots of times for people who haven't been through it, or haven't been through it with other parents that haven't been through it with other kids. So I feel I'm always, hopefully can be somebody that's a resource just to help talk through. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to always end up where you were meant to be.
Yeah, I love that. Meant to be. And that's strong. Thank you for sharing that. Because I know there's a lot of athletes that may be going through a rut, or have been a bad relationship with the coach or whatever, teammates or whatever, and they think that their careers or lives are over and stuff. And especially seeing your buddies or your friends wearing a jacket or going online, social media, and seeing they got a scholarship, and they think, then they go to their parents, and their parents, well, you're a better hockey player than her, and all this, and all of a sudden that mind and everything goes. So thank you so much for sharing that, Robin. Now, today's hockey, you've been playing hockey your whole life. You've been on both ends of the spectrum. Now, what are some struggles that you see now? Obviously, social media is obviously one big one that you mentioned. And obviously, these athletes have an avenue to go and talk to a coach. But what do you see now with these struggles in athletes and females?
Yeah, I think I honestly don't know how different it is from when I played. I think there's just a lot more awareness and openness to discuss it, perhaps, is maybe the better way to place it. Because I think the challenges and struggles of school and doing well in school and staying on scholarship, playing, getting into the lineup, where are you playing? I don't think any of those things have changed. It's just maybe the way that we're open to talking about it and dealing with it is a lot more like it just open. Like it's conversations that are had and conversations that are had a lot more in the open. I think even as coaches, it's something that we think about and even address with those players. Hey, I know you haven't been in the lineup for a few games. How are you doing? How's school going? I don't know how much the pressures have changed. I just think it's something that we're much more open to discussing. And it's not maybe kind of something that you silently just deal with or figure out on your own, or maybe talk with your best friend about.
Yeah. So there's athletes. Sorry, because when you said that coaches or the players could go walk in the coach's office, even if they're not playing. Why ain't I playing? I remember back in the day when I was in Everett, I was a fifth liner. I remember every day when it was a game day, you would walk in the dressing room. You wouldn't know the day before if you were playing. It was that day. And I remember walking in the dressing room, and then you walk in, then you see the practice jerseys. And if you had a red color, there'd be 4 jerseys of red. You're done.
Yep.
And I was not a chance. Am I going to the coach's office? Why ain't I playing? What do I got to do to get better? Kind of thing. It just wasn't a thing. But now these athletes can kind of sit down with the coach, and it's good. You're asking how's school, how's away from the rink, and everything doing. So I think it's important to have those conversations when they're not playing, right?
Yeah, and I think, they're not always going to know the answer.
For sure. Yeah.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But I think, it's something that we try and address ahead of time. It's, you try and have that conversation. Hey, just tell them, hey, you're not going to be in the lineup. We kind of have the policy. Our games are always Friday, Saturday, so we can have the policy that Monday we'll have the extended conversation of that, just as a way to kind of allow for focus on the weekend. But at least try and have those conversations so that there's open communication and understanding of where and why things are happening. Again, you may not know the answer, but you're at least gonna have it.
Yeah, you're not sitting there
Just
the unknown
in your head. And I'm guilty sometimes as coach. I probably don't do the best job of it, but it's something that we try to do so that our players know, and it's not question mark
For sure.
of just guessing. Okay, well, yes, I work harder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I kind of got one final question for you, Robin, and it was in relation to something you touched on with the identity piece, asking these girls, how's it going away from the rink? How's school? How's home life? And I want to share a quick cool story of seeing a girls team yesterday when I was at the rink. They were warming up for the next game and they were dressed up. Their coach had them dressed up, we did growing up. And it was, just in passing, I saw it, a few of them, right? And I thought it was so cool. I'm not a big supporter of the dumbed down dress code in the NHL necessarily. I'm old school, but I just thought it was so cool that that was happening, and leads me into my question of the identity piece. Do you think, and I'm sure you're biased me, but just the identity of hockey kind of being the foundation and being able to help shape these other areas of your life? Because that's what I felt when I saw these girls. I was, that's so awesome. They've got this great hockey piece. They're being disciplined just for showing up with dress code that has to impact them positively in their everyday life.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's such a, we talk about identity and sometimes how that's a negative thing, but I think it is such a positive in so many ways. And it's something that shows that I'm somebody that can be committed to something. I can be dedicated to something. I can show up on time. I can work with other people. I can find a way to get along with other people that I might not in other aspects of my life, or have a chance to even run into those people in my other life. We have, it's interesting, little side tangent, we have a great little mentorship program we're running through the U of S where companies are able to come in and we're trying to set up some opportunities for our players, both on ours and the men's team, for places to do some internships or summer work or move on. And these companies are just dying for people that are going to show up on time and do work and take some instruction. And I think, that identity piece of being a hockey player, there's so many great lessons that you learn through the game that are such positives that you can take through the rest of your life. I think it's such a cool thing, and I'm always going to be, and that's part of why I stay in the game, because I know that coming to the University of Saskatchewan and having the ability to play there and be a part of that program and meet all the people that I did, that has set me up for life in so many different ways. And I want to be able to create that type of positive experience and have that impact on other young women as they head out into their lives. Yeah, that's part of why I do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's huge stuff. Robin, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. All these insights, to know a little bit more about female hockey behind the scenes, especially with you being a female coach. I got one last question for you. I want you to go back to some time in your career when you were actively playing. It could be even you coaching and you're struggling, and maybe you didn't have that access opening up or didn't know the knowledge you know now with mental health and how everything's changed a bit. Obviously you still need some work, but what's something that you could say? You're sitting in a dressing room, you're sitting in your room, and you could see young Robin struggling.
Yeah.
What's something that you wish that you could have said to her from the knowledge that you know now?
Yeah. Well,
It's a tough question, right?
It is, right? And there's a few pieces of that because there's so much knowledge and experience and things that have come, later in life that you realize. One, open up a little bit, diagnosed with anxiety only a few years ago, where you're, man, I guess that probably explains a whole lot of things going along the way. So there's probably a little piece of, hey, all those things that you're thinking, nobody else is thinking that. So get out of your own. There's a little piece of that, get out of your own head, and you are better than you know that you are. And quit with the comparison, quit with the self-beating up, the negative self-talk, all those pieces that it took me so long to learn. I felt I never really got to that place till I was in my end of my fourth into my fifth year of playing Huskies, where I finally got all that stuff figured out. And then you're, man, what if I knew this all sooner? How much would that have maybe changed the course of my, my playing career and then where I ended up? Maybe it's in the exact same place, but I think, just looking back and going, you are so much better than you think that you are. Have that confidence in yourself that you are able to do the things that you maybe think you can't do. As cliche as that sounds, I mean, I think that was probably, one of my biggest challenges as a player was that self-confidence piece.
Yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
That's
well said.
Important. Yeah, very, very well said. But Robin, thank you so much. This is exactly why we do this. I know there's going to be a lot of athletes. I know especially female athletes are going to benefit off this one. G-Bones, got anything you want to say before we...
No, I mean, just thank you, Robin. Great to reconnect with you.
Yeah.
Like I said, been a couple decades or decade and a half, but I think that's just part of it, right? People get placed in and out of our lives, and I just knew when you popped in my head, and I knew you were still coaching. I was really happy you agreed to come on, because I knew that you had some tremendous insights and experience. And DJ said, I think this can help a lot of athletes, and particularly female athletes. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invite. I was really excited when I saw that, and I love what you guys are doing here. I think it's so important to continue to have these conversations and to open up about these things, because there's always, like you said, coming down later in life, there's all these things that you learn that man, why did we never talked about these things before, right? And it's just, if it can make some changes and some positive and impactful changes you guys are doing for young kids, that's amazing. So
yeah, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Robin.
Yeah.
That is huge. Okay, that wraps up episode 5 Away From The Rink podcast with Robin Ulrich. If any of you guys out there that are struggling today, make sure you pick up that phone. Mr. Walsh said, I know it could be 30 pounds, but if you pick up that phone and ask for help, all it could take is that one conversation. So it's okay to not be okay. We will see you guys next week, and that is episode 5 Away From The Rink podcast.